Welcome to Gen Z Amigas. I'm Maha, and today we're diving into how young founders are reshaping what it means to start and succeed in business. Our episode, Building Without the Playbook, How Gen Z is Redefining Startups and Success, explores how this generation is questioning tradition, embracing risk, and building purpose first. And now I'm thrilled to be joined by Krupa Jatania, Ventures at Plug and Playtech Center. Krupa works at the intersection of innovation and entrepreneurship, helping early stage founders turn bold ideas into sustainable ventures. She's passionate about creating spaces where Gen Z voices can lead the next wave of startup culture. And if I'm not wrong, she also has a Gen Z podcast. So Krupa, to start off, what first drew you into this startup and venture world, and how did that shape your approach to, building things your own way?
Well, to be honest, I have never had a linear career path. So, what got me into building is coming from a family of entrepreneurs.
Okay.
I come from a business family, although it's like a more traditional brick and mortar business family, not the flashy startup world that we see right now. But basically, what that instills in you is the sense of wanting to do something impactful and looking over the traditional means of going across. And ever since, I guess, educationally, academically, I started off with my chartered accountancy. And back then, the only parts were, auditing, taxation, finance. For an accountant, that makes the most sense. For me, that did not make sense. And luckily, I got into a business advisory segment, which introduced me for the first time to the world of startups.
Hmm.
And ever since then, it was so fascinating to see how something solves a problem from ground up. Basically, the fascination started from the fact of, uh, the messiness that a startup world has, the speed that it comes with, the dynamism that it comes with, uh, rather than being or following a playbook or following a certain step procedure. It's every day is a new problem, every day is a new solution. You are forced to think out of the box. And I guess that's what kept me going. That's what kept me wanting to dig more into the space. And thereafter, as I kept moving across and moving further in my career and trajectory, I realized that, okay, maybe ventures is a more fun space for me to be blending my financial capabilities and caliber with the world of startups. And it's also the other side of the table. So, coming from the side of advisory, which is like a middleman, and then going on to the side of operators, which is more on the startup front, the strategy front, then coming to investments, which is the other side of table. I guess I saw all the three touch points of the ecosystem and finally settled for the ventures side of it. So right now I'm
Hmm.
with Plug and Play, doing ventures and investments for the UAE.
Hmm.
And that's pretty much, I guess, where my startup fascination sort of started, and it's still ongoing. It hasn't faded off.
Hmm. Oh, that's so interesting how you brought all those three things all together. I love that. It sounds like, you know, your innovation and your drive begins with your different kind of identities or career paths, and bringing that all together has brought you to the point that you are today. So I wanted to kind of bring that question, and I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you another question about that, and how Gen Z founders are often called, fearless, but at
Mhm.
times value driven. You're talking about how there's messiness, there's speed, etc. So from your vantage point, what really defines the Gen Z entrepreneurial mindset?
I guess there's two sides to it. The first side where you pointed out the fact of, a lot of them being called fearless. I guess it's not being called fearless in the sense of having no fear. It's a natural human trait for all of us to have fear. It's more so being fearless in the face of fear, failure, or something like, uh, not having that fear of letting something go or going, seeing something go the other way around. We have seen a lot happen during the fundamental years, especially the Gen Z. Coming from this generation, I guess we have seen the global financial crisis at some point in time.
Hmm.
We have seen the entire pandemic unfold in front of us. We have seen the instability of traditional careers. We have seen the valuation black boxes. We have seen an entire crisis geopolitically sort of unfold in front of us. So the mindset has shifted from, averting risk to
Mm-hmm.
taking that risk and seeing where it goes and
Mm-hmm.
moving fast enough or being adaptable enough to let that failure not feel personal, to move
Mm-hmm.
on and pivot to the next big thing that happens. So the
Mm-hmm.
definition of a Gen Z entrepreneur has shifted to impact rather than moving more financially, moving more traditionally. So it's impact as a mantra that we are seeing. We see a
Mm-hmm.
lot of founders within this generation be more value driven
Mm-hmm.
because the mindset is that if we work hard enough, it will align with the values. We see founders addressing the more harder problems within climate, within digital health, within future of work. Because what was being seen as niche previously is now much more mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
And us coming across so many startup founders and sourcing within these areas helps us understand where that shift is sort of going from here because this generation has instant access to the world's problems. And we have also seen the bestest of solutions to it come up. It's not like we haven't seen AI come up in our age. We haven't seen a lot of tech innovations happen. We have seen it all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes us more holistic and more global problem solvers by default, rather than us being just solving for the sake of building something.
For
So
sure.
that's what's getting us more connected, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I actually completely agree with you. And obviously, I was actually taking some notes as you were speaking. And I picked up on how you were saying how, Gen Z has kind of shifted to impact, making impact rather than having that like financial drive. So I wanted to further ask you, would you say that Gen Z builds more for meaning than for money? Or are those two now, inseparable?
I'd say they're definitely inseparable. Like, meaning is the North Star metric. I wouldn't lie. It is something that we hold, or we have seen the Gen Z founders hold super close, but I don't think so. This generation is also naive enough
Mm-hmm.
to think that, anything's going to happen without capital.
Mm-hmm.
You need the capital to make the impact, and that's a fundamental principle that we cannot shy away from. But I guess the difference here lies in the fact that a Gen Z founder or a new age founder or an impact driven founder would be more comfortable having a 10x ROI on, let's say, an impactful problem
Mm-hmm.
rather than having a 100x ROI on a problem that's being pushed around in the market that's, not making a lot of sense. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where the core line of differentiation can be drawn. And meaning is not just in the sense of sustainability, it's not just in the sense of impact, it's more so also it lies in the modes of talent, it lies in the modes of how we are building things from here.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
Mm, no problem. Mm,
excuse me, yeah. I've had a weird throat, but yeah.
mhm,
So meaning, like I was saying, it's practically in those areas that we are seeing the market shift right now. So that is what is driving the valuation. The talents are driving the valuation. The valuation is being driven by the drive of the founder rather than the financial results itself. So no, we cannot separate meaning and money. They are pretty much they run parallel to each other,
mhm, mhm,
but we can definitely give a direction to what sort of meaning the money is generating. And
mhm.
that's practically, I feel, where we are seeing a lot of shift happen.
Yeah, I love how you brought that whole topic of talent and the drive, and there's different drives for different entrepreneurs. And at the
For sure.
start of the podcast you mentioned rewriting, the traditional means. So I want to move on to our next segment about unpacking what it actually looks like to build without the, traditional playbook. So, when you hear building without the playbook, what does that mean to you personally?
To me, I guess building without the playbook means embracing the uncertainty, embracing the fact that no single approach solves all the problems in the world. It's accepting the messiness
Mm-hmm.
and thriving towards creating something out of that messiness. Because in whatever capacity, in whatever segment we are looking at it,
Mm-hmm.
it's always going to be messy. We cannot
Mm-hmm.
have a standard process solve everything for us. And especially in the space that I currently operate in with early stage ventures, we have to be so adaptable to go from 100 to a million. It's
Uh-huh.
always 0 to a 10, a
100%.
10 to a 100, and a 100 to a million. It's never a linear journey where you're constantly doing the same thing that's going to get you the same results. We need to adapt our strategy weekly. Rather, sometimes it's also more so on a daily basis that we need to adapt the strategy and see where it's going for them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's practically where I see, if you just want me to answer in a very brief way,
Mm-hmm.
building without the playbook would be embracing the messiness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the new rule book is embracing the messiness.
At
And
least for
in a
me.
way, yeah, and in a way, staying flexible. You're saying how it can go from 100 to a million. So
Yeah.
I think that flexibility is quite important. And so I wanted to ask you again, can you share an example where you took that messy, unconventional route in your work with ventures and then what you learned from that experience?
Look, I guess you summarized it pretty well. It's embracing the messiness and also having, I would say, a bias for action.
Mm-hmm.
If you, as an individual, or anything that you do, if you're a little more focused on making stuff happen rather than thinking backwards and seeing how it's happened, what's going to take it for us to make it happen, stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to just take you in a spiral down there. So just having like a bias for action, like action is where the impact is going to come from, is going to be pretty cool. In the sense of, I guess, giving an example, there's been quite a few off the top of my head, not really that I remember, but I guess an unconventional route typically in my life, uh, more than my work with ventures, because with ventures, we back really phenomenal founders. Sometimes a lot of them are unconventional in the way they want to do things and the way they want to disrupt. Like they are not coming from the traditional industries, they are not coming from a segment that we have historically seen perform well,
Mm-hmm.
but we are taking a bet. And we are
Mm-hmm.
taking a bet on that founder who knows what he's out there building.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely been a lot of unconventional stuff that we have taken a bet on and pushed the ICs with, pushed the entire flow around for.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess messy to clarity also gives me one example, which is back in my time with one of the venture builders in the region. We had a deal flow engine. I was building out the deal flow engine for them. And, we used to take the traditional route of having the
Mm-hmm.
CRM, seeing what deal is coming in, and then having like a proper process, which used to take around 8 weeks for us,
Mm-hmm.
which was highly inefficient. But it was the CRM, so it was helping at least us keep the log of what's coming in, where is it, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
let's just trash the CRM,
Mm-hmm.
let's just trash the entire process. And luckily, the people I was working with, they were super flexible, and they still are. They are the best mentors I've ever had, and the best
Amazing.
bosses I guess I'd ever had. And they agreed to throw it out at the condition of me building something new for them that could work and that got the approval of the board.
Mm-hmm.
And we made it happen. So I guess that if it fits the question, I don't know really if I answered your question. I just
No, no,
deviated
no.
it
You
out.
did. I love the
Uh,
examples you gave. No, no,
but
100%.
yeah, that's pretty much bad.
Okay. And you were talking about all these different people that you've worked with, whether it's investors or possibly, mentors. So I wanted to ask you, because, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners would want to know that are thinking about being entrepreneurs, what do you wish investors or mentors better understood about how Gen Z builds?
I guess one fact that is still not very out and about in the market about this generation, because obviously there's two sides to the story of every generation, as is for Gen Z as well.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what they need to better understand is the speed at which we capture signals. Yeah, we might not have the 30 years of operational experience. We might not have that historical backing in terms of, building businesses in throughout because of our age.
Mm-hmm.
But we are also digital natives. We are also community people. And we have this edge of spotting trends faster, understanding where the pain point is, and using social media to our benefit for it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a synthesis of signals that I've actually seen a lot of the younger founders be really good at capturing and solving for
Mm-hmm.
rather than going around the traditional route. So sometimes what happens is a lot of younger founders seem to be solving for the same kind of problem, but that's also the kind of problem that is genuinely working out in the market.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes they just need to trust our rhythm, that we know what's happening. We might not be coming from a place of experience or a sector that we have worked for years altogether, but we can make it work. And as opposed to what a lot of perceptions are, we are a pretty hardworking generation. It's just the way we work is a little too unconventional.
Mm-hmm.
We like to
True.
draw that line between the harmony of life, like I'd call it, and whatever it is that we are doing. But once we lock in, we lock in. And obviously, I can't
For
speak on the
sure.
behalf of the entirety of, a generation, but as much as I know, at
Mm-hmm.
least it's always been that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and adding on to your point, there is this narrative that some say Gen Z founders move fast but lack that discipline or tradition or experience. And I wanted to ask you, is that fair or just you know, I mean, it may be an obvious answer or just a misunderstanding of a new rhythm of work and entrepreneurs?
I guess you could say it is there's a disparity around that. So there's basically like a gap in understanding rather than a misunderstanding, I would
For
say.
sure.
So the discipline is definitely there. But the discipline comes in shapes and formats that we have not traditionally seen. The
Mm-hmm.
discipline comes in the factor of being strong enough and having that capability to rapidly iterate, having the resourcefulness to work with uh, stuff that doesn't need a lot of investments, the no code tools. We are iterating based on user feedback. There's like a conservative runway that we can make with. So
Mm-hmm.
hacking our way out of the market, that's something I've seen the generation be really good at. And having sourced so many companies across different generations, I can very, very, very strongly say so that, it's not the case that an older generation will have the same discipline as a founder.
Mm-hmm.
The discipline isn't about the generation, the discipline is about uh, knowing what to do, being dedicated enough to be building a business through the ups and the lows of it, and being resourceful.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the case where the strongest founders are most disciplined by the conventional ways. The
Mm-hmm.
strongest founders are most disciplined in the way of their dedication, in the way of their process, in the way of how they show up every day and want to work on the same problem till the point it reaches a stage of impact.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a very generational thing. It's more of, a personal trait that we see
For sure.
across in founders.
For sure. So we could say, summarize and say that it doesn't matter what generation you're in, it's all about your traits and your drive. And no matter if you're 6 years old or 60 years old. So
Right.
and I want to say, you've painted such a powerful picture of experimentation and being messy and really thinking outside the box. So let's close
Yeah.
by talking about what success actually means when you're building this way. So I wanted to ask you, in venture spaces, success is often tied to valuations and
Hmm.
exits. What does success mean to you beyond those metrics?
I would say to the external world, yes, valuation matters a lot because that's what we see around in the news. That's what
For
we
sure.
see making waves. But for us, it's more of value creation,
Hmm.
especially me as well. It's more of value creation and not valuation.
Hmm.
Just give me a minute.
No problem. Hmm.
So yeah, I'll start from the top. So basically, what I was coming at is whilst valuation has made the waves, it has made the news, it has made a lot of hype around it because we saw crazy valuations up until 2021, 2022. It actually in the venture space is more around value creation. So
Mm-hmm.
for us, what matters is, did we move the needle for them? Could we get them customers? Could we get them access to something that, them being in a portfolio company, they couldn't get from anywhere else?
Mm-hmm.
Are they building something that's sustainable, that's gonna help them reach some place and, also create a good impact out in the market? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, as investors, we also have a responsibility to be generating ROI. I wouldn't lie on that. We are answerable to our investors as well in the sense of what's happening with the investments. But
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, personally, it's more about what sort of impact is it creating? Because measurable impact, that compounds, and that compounds at a scale where, after a point, it's more than a single cash event.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm cashing out way high from or exiting way high from an investment, vis-a-vis I have 10 impactful exits. The
Mm-hmm.
10 impactful exits make more sense. So for us, it's whether we have been able to help them with an M&A plan that, has set them up responsibly, whether we are ideating a gamification feature for them that's,
Mm-hmm.
keeping our users engaged. So it's
Mm-hmm.
more about how we work with them after investment as opposed to just investing and then being like, do what you want to do. Just give
Mm-hmm.
me the returns. So
For
it's
sure.
always co-building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you're talking about working with those entrepreneurs after investing. And so if a young founder listening right now feels unsure where to start, what would you tell them?
Um, I'll take a step back. I'll say this to any founder, and especially to a young founder that is right now, in the midst of all these trends, all these news, seeing all these flashy startups make stuff happen.
Mm-hmm.
Start with a question, not an answer. And I emphasize this a lot whenever I'm talking about ventures as well. It is super crucial for us to be targeting a problem rather than pushing a solution out there. So, a lot of times we feel that, oh, this is such a cool solution, this is such a cool product, let's make a business out of it. But we really need to take a step back and see whether this is a genuine problem out in the market, whether it is a scalable problem, whether it is a problem that, people are going to keep coming back for,
Mm-hmm.
or else you're just going to push the product in the market and it won't sustainably grow.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is to find a problem that genuinely annoys you,
Mm-hmm.
something that annoys people around you, get that expert insight into that problem, and then start solving for it. And the
Mm-hmm.
second aspect to this is, when we are solving for it, solve as quickly as we can. So basically, launch a quick version, get it out to 10 people out in the market, test the customer feedback, and iterate accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
Do not wait for the perfect product and the perfect solution and, then go to the market.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a heavy chance by then either someone else would have solved it, or you have spent so much time perfecting the idea of the product in your mind that you will become very averse to any real feedback out in the market.
Mm-hmm.
So the best playbook is to, write it whilst you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So don't wait, have a bias for action, get out in the market, but before
Mm-hmm.
getting out, just ensure that it is a valid problem.
Mm-hmm.
So solve for a problem, find a problem, not a solution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've heard of solving a problem first, but I haven't heard of, the getting it out there and being acting on that problem. So thank
Yeah,
you for that. That's something that I will take into consideration for the future.
definitely.
And so let's finish with one line, Krupa. What's your mantra for building without the playbook?
Mhm. That's a toughie. Uh, I guess my mantra for building without the playbook would be the signal, avoid the noise, and stay true to yourself.
Amazing. Wow. Thank you. Well,
Definitely, my pleasure.
Krupa, thank you so much for such an inspiring and grounded and educational conversation. You've shown that, real innovation isn't following the playbook, it's in trusting your own. And I think what I will hold with me today is, being messy. I love that term. So, and to
For
our
sure.
listeners, thank you for tuning in to Gen Z Amigas. Keep experimenting, keep learning, and keep building your own version of success. Until next time.
Bye.